Yeah, we're back on the SportsMax Zone, and we're talking cricket, and we have on the Zoom line with us President of Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shallow. In the previous segment, he spoke about Rupert Hunter, the new Chief Commercial Officer, announced his role announced today. And Dr. Shallow, we were at the end of the last segment talking about the new selection process and the issue of accountability, as you labeled it. I want to suggest to you, though, that it is unorthodox given what happens in other cricket global administrations at the moment. You say it's nothing new to sport, and that's true, but for cricket this approach is unorthodox. So why is it that you think that Cricket West Indies will benefit from this this policy or this approach when the most successful cricket-playing nations globally are using the traditional method?
Yeah, our dynamics are slightly different from the, much different, some may argue, from other countries, in that we are made up of several islands and countries, if you include Guyana, of course. And so when we have islands, different national tournaments taking place, inter-island in the case of Leeward Islands and Windward Islands, then we have to find a method, an approach that best suits us, right? And we believe that by establishing this role-based and what we consider to be highly strategic selection system, right, it would afford us certainly great opportunities identifying talent. So you notice that there's emphasis in the senior talent manager and the territorial board talent ID officers or managers, whatever they're eventually called, and then the local selection network and so on. All these complement each other, right? In the system, and Ms. Bathroom would have explained this in our press conference recently, where, in terms of the senior pathway manager, right, that person will be responsible for profiling players, individualizing the player development strategies, and evolving. And we can't always wait, Lance, until others have implemented systems to adapt. And I'm sure you appreciate that. And we believe that this is certainly one area we do not mind leading. And we have all confidence that this is really what is best for us at this particular time. And again, each person in the system, each role, the head coach, the senior pathway manager, and the other scouts in the system, once they all understand the system, it will certainly offer more transparency and inspire greater confidence from all stakeholders, not only fans, but also players, where they understand that they will be looked at the national levels, regardless whether junior or senior, that someone who is in direct contact with the head coach, the ultimate selector, right, would be they're looking at them and observing them and so on. You will have better performance, probably more consistency across all levels in the system. So at this particular time, we have confidence that this system could certainly produce great results for us, and we're quite optimistic about it.
Yeah, but how would you respond, Dr. Shallow, to the view or the point that England a few years ago tried this system and gave up on it? You say that you don't mind Cricket West Indies leading other global administrations in this, but England actually tried it, and I don't think their experiment lasted more than a year and a half or so, because it wasn't successful for them. Ashley Giles, who was the managing director of England Cricket at the point of making the decision, had told the media that the current process of selecting England teams has been in place for over 120 years. The new structure also makes lines of accountability much clearer, which sounds a little similar to what you're saying now, with Chris Silverwood, who was the head coach at the time, given the job to select the team as well, and ultimately taking the responsibility for the team's performance. I don't have to continue that. About a year and a few months after that, he was sacked as both coach and selector, and they reverted to what they had before. Ashley Giles suggesting that it had been in place for over 120 years. But maybe the people who are opposing this method that you're introducing would suggest that there's a reason why policy like that has been in for 120 years.
Quite often, Lance, you see, systems will evolve always, right? And you have to make the decisions based on the person that you have and your own dynamics, right? Our dynamics is such, again, you know, we're talking about their countries generally have, let's say you have simultaneous tournaments running across the islands, or the country in Jamaica, in Guyana, sorry, all right? And there's hardly any eyes at the national levels, you know, that feed in at the regional and the senior level. So there's a serious disconnect, right, across the levels in our system. And again, because these are multi-islands, right, then it is difficult. So you often miss talent. Now, at the senior level, we believe that our head coaches, and by all the conversations and so on, we have had discussions with them, they have embraced this system, this approach, and they obviously know that it is more responsibility and arguably more scrutiny, I'm sure. And the fact that they have embraced it is commendable to them. It means that they are, you know, they are result oriented, and they know that the results, you know, ultimately will determine their fate, right? And it's good to have personnel in the system who think like that and have the confidence that they could execute, you know, with the system we have and produce the desirable results. So again, from the feedback and so on, this decision was not made overnight, obviously, and there were consultations done. As I said, this system came out of a committee, right? The Cricket Performance and Outcome Committee, right? And, you know, we have former players on that committee, including people like Ian Bradshaw and, you know, young captain or recent captain from Guyana, Leon Johnson. And so we had experts actually contributing to this, and they all believe that at this particular time in our cricket landscape that this could serve us well. And you know, we are giving it a shot. We have confidence that it will, you know, bring the desirable results. Maybe not overnight, but certainly in terms of identifying and managing talent. You know, this is the best approach for us over the next coming years.
Yeah, and just one more on that issue before you go, because the domestic television TVJ reported over the weekend, Dr. Shallow, that the local personalities that would be involved in this system did tell them that they haven't been formally or officially informed about this new system. And they would, I suspect, given the TVJ report, be the persons intimately involved in this process. And they were suggesting, the report said, that they hadn't been informed by CWI officially about what's happening. How would you respond to that?
Well, the board approved it. The CWI board approved this system, and the board obviously is, you know, the construct of the board, you know. We have, you know, territorial boards, presidents and others, some vice president and other members. And of course, as I mentioned a while ago, you have some experts on the committee from different territorial boards as well who would have contributed to us arriving at this system. But I know the director of cricket and his team, they have, you know, planned, you know, a series of engagement across the different territories to sensitize people about this system. Not only, you know, those in the network of scout that we are looking at, but also players, because you have to ensure that the players understand that they are being observed more now and they're being watched and so on, and you know, the exchanges must be open discussions. So, you know, you require a level of transparency and communication, openness to communication and all that. So over the next few weeks, you'll find, you know, Miles and his colleagues going out to the different territories individually, visiting and having those discussions that would help in terms of sensitizing them after this new selection system. I suspect it may take up to, the intention is by the commencement of the Super 50 tournament, they will all be quite a prize of this new selection system.
Okay, I hear you, Doc, and we hope that it will work out well, because I have said on the show before that West Indies cricket has been declining now for the past 30 years, and maybe it is that some really new, drastic and unconventional methods need to be implemented to sort of turn things around. So let's give this...
And Lance, just to add, right, that
yes.
this is by no means the end product, and
yes.
what I've said to all members in our organization. Now, whenever we implement a new system, or any system at all, we must be committed to continued, assessment and evaluation and changes if necessary. And I think that the team understands that pretty well, and that is what we are committed to always keep an eye out for those opportunities to improve our systems, and that is what you would see, some tweaking and so on as we go along with this system as well.
All right, President Shallow, there was some unrest over Asim Bassarath's return as VP because a court issue had forced him to step away, coming from a Guyana legal challenge, and apparently not long after that he is back because there is no other candidate, and there's some unrest throughout the region from some parts that it was hastily done, and there wasn't a proper opportunity for some other persons to put their hands up for the challenge.
I think the system was quite robust, again, in line, in keeping with our practice over the years. Between us having a board meeting where this was discussed and agreed, we set out a timeline, which we followed, and the timeline certainly is, the process, is in keeping with our articles of association, and I believe at every point we communicated, shared information in the media, and there's little more we could have done, but I think the factual matrix pertaining to this particular case is there to show. We had an election last year, March. There were contests about the election for the vice president office, particularly because GCP withdrew their nomination. It was put to the court in Guyana, and there was a court order. However, I would say, much credit to Mr. Bassarath, as in Bassarath, who had actually pended his resignation to ensure that an election could have been held, regardless of the court outcome. So that certainly helped with the situation when you have, an individual who is actually putting the organization first in saying, we understand that in the best interest of the organization, we don't have this cloud over us, and let us actually proceed with this election regardless of the court outcome. And I think that is what helped us in terms of establishing that timeline, as opposed to, say, opposition from Mr. Bassarath, as could have been the case, right? So as it stands now, the election will still take place on September 20th, because despite he is unopposed, there must be an election, and we'll follow through with the due process, certainly in line with our articles of association.
All right. President Shallow, great talking to you as usual on the SportsMax Zone. You know that the discussion of West Indies cricket is a very emotional thing with our fans throughout the region, so people always want to hear what's coming from the head of the administration. So we appreciate you appearing on the show today, and we look forward to having many more discussions in the coming months as West Indies cricket restructures and new policies are in place to uplift West Indies cricket. Thanks a lot, Dr. Shallow. And
Thank you so much, Lance.
Yeah, man, we'll talk again soon.
Take care. Thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
and we'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.